When you have these cleansing reactions, it's a sign that you're a lot stronger. My history is that I had mild asthma, which developed into bronchitis, and in my early 30s, I had pleurisy and pneumonia, which is a very wet kind of condition. You become very breathless, and you feel like you've got water in your lungs. It's very unpleasant. And I managed to suppress this with some strong antibiotics, and it was never a problem again. But when I started Bottega method when I was 50, one of the first cleansing reactions to start was discharging the infection that was in my lungs. And the best way to describe it was that my lungs went really hot, very painful, extraordinarily painful actually. I would say at a level of 9 and 10 out of 10. I couldn't stand anybody touching me. I was in agony. The whole of my chest area was very inflamed. It was like a wound, like if you've got an infected wound on your skin that's getting very hot and inflamed, and that's part of the healing process. It's exactly like that, but it's lung tissue on the inside. It's like your skin on the inside is repairing, it's cleaning itself up. And the process of inflammation is part of the healing process. Now, in those days, 10 years ago, I didn't manage to communicate enough for anybody to say to me, it'd be a good idea if you take some painkiller or some anti-inflammatory, take the edge off it. Or maybe someone did, but maybe I refused it because I was against medications. I can't remember actually how I came to that position. But these days, if that had happened to me now, I would take a bit of anti-inflammatory, a bit of painkiller to take the pain off, because very painful tissue makes you breathe more. You don't want to breathe more, so you need to get rid of some of the pain so that you don't breathe so much, because our job in Bottega method is to help people to breathe less.
Can you put yourself back into those early experiences of that wet, hot burning and just really describe for somebody who hasn't experienced it themselves what it is like?
Well, your lungs are really hot and they're very inflamed, and the whole chest cavity is in pain. It comes out onto your skin. I mean, your skin is really in a lot of pain as well. You can't breathe easily. You have to breathe under the nose. You can't take deep breaths because it hurts too much to breathe. So you have to keep yourself very still, very quiet, and not move much, and keep your breathing, what I call under breathing, to keep the breathing under. And if you have a wheeze as well, to keep it under the wheeze. So you need to keep your breathing as shallow as possible. And I talk about under breathing, breathing under, to help you to breathe shallow. That's what I had to do. And it lasted about 6 weeks. And then miraculously it went away. It was the process of discharging the infection and cleaning up the lung tissue took me 6 weeks. And during that time, I was still doing maximum pauses up to 60. Constantly, throughout the day, I'll be doing 4 sets of maximum pause up to 60 at least, to keep the process, to keep the pot simmering. And it hurt, but I still did it. It did help to take the pain off. That's why I kept doing it. And I was able to do 60 maximum pause. And it is important to practice, despite how low your pauses are. It's important to keep practicing regularly. And the lower your pauses, then the more times you need to practice. Because I could get to 60, I could get away with 4 or 5 times a day. And sometimes I would practice at night, round the clock as well. So practice every 3 hours to try and help keep the pot simmering, so that that would help the healing process.
And then what about the dry, the other extreme, when that was itchy? What was that like?
This cleansing reaction I'm talking about happened around control pause under 20-ish. Then when I got my control pause to 30, I had a different kind of cleansing reaction. It was like having eczema on the inside, dry sensation, itchy. Again, it was painful to breathe because of the dryness and the itchiness, and also I was prone to wheezing, much more prone to wheezing. So it was different. It wasn't as painful. Control pause was 30 by this time, so the pain level was lower, much lower, but it was uncomfortable and dry and itchy. Again, that lasted a few weeks, but continued to practice and continued not to worry about it, knew that my lungs were mending and that it would pass. That is the things to bear in mind, that this is the process, and the signal is the control pause. It's always a control pause. The control pause is around a certain point and you've got that cleansing reaction, you know it's a cleansing reaction.
At the time, what were you thinking about all this?
I would oscillate from thinking I would never get better and that I was getting worse, into being more logical and listening to the practitioner and thinking the way the practitioner had described it. That's the thing with this method, you go oscillating from what you subjectively fear most of all, and that's that you're getting worse, to no, this is right, this is correct, I've got a control pause of 30. As long as I keep my pauses going, the pain comes off a bit, the uncomfortableness comes and goes, it's intermittent, so that's a good sign. This is what the practitioner's told me. Bit by bit, it'll pass. It will pass. You have to keep remembering, it will pass. It's a temporary thing, and your lungs are mending. You just have to keep reaffirming what the practitioner says, because the mind will try and help you to decide.
At any of these points, did you feel your life was at risk? Did you think, oh, I can't breathe, I'm going to die?
Well, the thing that kept me going was the fact that I had already experienced significant improvement, that I had felt better than I ever had felt for years. And having experienced that helped me to tolerate the cleansing reaction. And the other point that's very important about cleansing reactions is they don't come until you've got the strength to go through them. There's something about it. When you have these cleansing reactions, it's a sign that you're a lot stronger, because somehow or another you have something fundamental that is much stronger than it was before, that carries you through. And you can tell it's there. You can feel that strength.
Now, what if you didn't have an experience of how the method definitely helped you? Or if you had forgotten that you'd had improvement at other times, what would you have done then?
Well, that's where the practitioner is really important. I didn't actually have that experience myself, but I have noted in other people that haven't had that sense of improvement, or might have had that sense of improvement but haven't acknowledged it somehow. Those people that get through stay in touch with the practitioner. Or they take themselves away, go through some sort of internal process until they've recovered, and then they come back to the practitioner later.
So what have you observed about people who disappear, who don't want to be in touch?
Well, those that don't want to be in touch and decide it's all too much, unfortunately, they lose their opportunity. They don't continue. They just decide it's too much, it's not their way, and they're not doing it. And I can quite understand that. Some of the cleansing reactions are very unpleasant, but quite often they come back at a later date with renewed vigor and determination to get the results, because they have picked up something about it, that it is the answer. And those that complain and agitate, quite often they do get very good results, really good results.
And what is the response of a practitioner when somebody comes back after days, weeks, months, sometimes years? What's the practitioner's response to that student?
Start again, really good, it's great. You know, that the door's always open. You know, you can come and go. You can come in, do a bit of work, investigate, decide it's not for you, go away, reconsider, go and try other things. And then when you come back, the door is open, always. That's how we work. We're here to help people as and when they're ready.
The door is always open.
Yeah, it is. And it's as and when you're ready. And as much as you're ready to do the work, that'll be the equivalent to the kinds of results you get. It's a process, and each person's process is very different. It depends on infections that have happened in the past, or how low your control pause was when you started, the kinds of symptoms that you're prone to. Sometimes it is pretty gruesome, but those people that stick with it, despite the difficulties, and keep in touch with the practitioner and keep giving their feedback and getting the practice adjusted and then feedback again and adjusted again and keep going, ticking along, ticking along, ticking along. It can be done slow, it can be done quick, it can be done quick and pulled back, it can be slow and pushed forwards. It's about an oscillation, pulling back and pushing forwards, pulling back and pushing forwards. And bit by bit, you eke yourself more forwards. Because the body's in flux all the time. So sometimes you push and sometimes you pull back, push and pull back. There's no set routine. In fact, routine is not encouraged in Bottega method. It's an oscillation. The body's always in flux. It's really about how to respond to the flux.
If you respond to the flux, how do you get the results sooner rather than later?
Persistence, constant persistence. You can have days off because that helps the body to adjust to the work you've done before, gives it the break. But it's the persistence. It's just constant supplying CO2, constant supplying CO2 during cleansing reactions. And as the senior practitioners recommend, when you feel worse, you have to practice more often. When you really don't feel like practicing, and when you feel better, you can practice less often. If you over practice when you feel good, you will inevitably end up in a cleansing reaction. As soon as you get a good day, next day, likely to be awful. You suddenly get a good boost of CO2, and that CO2 is going to be used in cleaning something up.
And what would you say in conclusion? The people who've suffered those awful burning, itching, the wet, the dry.
I'd say that those people that persist, regardless of what they say and what they think, they just persist with the practice. No matter what, you can complain all you like, it doesn't, as long as you practice, doesn't matter. Whether you're nice or nasty or fed up or happy, it's irrelevant. If you practice and keep supplying the CO2, no matter what you're feeling, no matter what you're thinking, you'll get the results. You'll come out on top. Well, the drama around it, I can assure you. I mean, I was a real drama queen around it all my views and opinions and feelings and thoughts and attitudes and so on. But I kept practicing, that was the thing. And I remember saying to Christopher Drake at the end of it all, when I got the results and I felt a lot better, I said, I didn't follow your instructions a lot of the time. I did it my own way. He says, yeah, but you got the results and you kept practicing. That's the thing, it's persistent practice. The drama, just ignore it. The thing that kept me going was the fact that I had already experienced significant improvement, that I had felt better than I ever had felt for years.